All right, so we're Boeing, and this is our presentation regarding the 737 MAX incidents. Next slide. So background overview. So due to the nature of this industry, there is a strong rivalry between us and our competitor Airbus. After the recent incident regarding the groundings of our 737 MAX planes, some of our customers have canceled orders with plans to switch to Airbus, with many more considering as well. Pursuing our overall cost leadership strategy to save money, our planes were re-engined instead of manufacturing from scratch. In an effort to retain our customers attracted to the new Airbus models, we expedited the design approval process and began production. Due to the position of the engine in the aircraft, the plane had a higher chance of stalling, so our engineers added MCAS software at an elevated AOA. However, the software was not tested for failure, and we had not anticipated the design flaw of the aircraft that led to the incidents. All of our customers are currently losing money because of these groundings, and some are even demanding compensation in return and have lost trust in our company. We are also losing trust from many pilots who have flown our planes for years, saying there was insufficient training for the new MCAS software on our 737 MAX. The general public now has a predisposition towards Boeing aircraft and air transportation in general, which is hurting us and our airline customers. Lastly, our suppliers are losing money due to unfulfilled orders, which can adversely affect our relations and supply chain infrastructure. Next slide.
So for the financial review, up until the 2019 year, the 737 MAX incident, Boeing had been performing pretty well, as you can see. Boeing's market share had been largely undisrupted, and the relevant mature with low threats of entrance and high levels of competition. Below is the stock price of Boeing's chart, and our market had been, largely undisrupted just because of the low barrier or the high barrier for entry. So there's low threat. And as you can see, even with the massive dip and all the hardships that came with the errors of the 737, we've been gradually making a comeback as our stock price steadily has begun to rise again. Next slide. The industry analysis, the market share zero-sum game. So Boeing's increased production costs at the end of 2019 will continue production of upgraded 737 MAX models, meaning Boeing's revenue decreased more than 58% in 2018 after the two fatal crashes. They recorded a net loss in 2019, and the average growth of their shares was negative 1.05%, while Airbus saw a 1.71% growth. Possible legal fees due to groundings across the airlines and growth in the airline deliveries is higher for Airbus, yielding lower demand for Boeing. Boeing delivered a total of 345 commercial aircraft in 2019, down from 806 in 2018. On the other hand, Airbus's aircraft deliveries grew from 629 in 2014 to 863 in 2019, almost gaining 250 during that time span. Airbus has improved its market share from 41.1% in 2014 to 45.3% in 2018. Next slide.
Alrighty, so here we're taking a look at the cash flow statement of Boeing over the past 3 years. Right off the bat, the cash flow statement's divided into 3 sections: cash flow from operating, cash flow from investing, and then cash flow from financing. There's a lot of convoluted information there as it is a statement. So I'll have some graphs that are easier to read on the next slide that will go over this cash flow statement. On the right here, we've got operating income and then cash from operations. Very clearly, they are directly correlated. And right after 2018 into 2019 and 2020, we see a direct drop, a huge drop in 2019 and in 2020. Largely started because of that 737 MAX incident. But as you can see, Boeing has had issues gaining ground financially. What I like to look at in the cash flow statement is that the cash flow statement, unlike some other financial statements, there's no hiding behind the flow of the cash. You can very clearly see how the operating activities are managed, the investing activities are managed, and the financing activities, how that is playing into effect the total cash flow in the firm. Next slide. So on this next slide here, we do have a rundown of some of the relevant cash metrics. So now debt is not on the cash flow statement directly, but what you can see is the total debt to total cash. There's quite a difference. So with debt on hand being substantially larger than cash, if we take a look at the debt to capital ratio across the industry, Boeing's debt to capital ratio is vastly higher. Starting even in 2016, they had some leverage issues and carried it forward to 2018. After that 737 MAX incident, the leverage issues just got worse. So 2019 through 2020, you see almost double the industry. The industry is under 1, and that seems to be the standard. Our debt to capital ratio for Boeing is over 1, which represents an inability to pay mostly short-term debt obligations. As you can see, our cash flow from investments also is suffering and is in the negative as well. Next slide. So a good way to take a look at this cash flow cycle and get some explanation of what's going wrong is our inventory turnover. If you take a look at, this is going to be 2020 on the left side, 2019 in the middle, and then 2018 on the right. If you take a look at the average inventory processing period, it has only gotten worse as time has gone on. With more inventory tied up, that's more cash tied up in the cash conversion cycle. The longer the inventory period, the lower than the free cash flows are, and the lower the total evaluation of the firm, thus affecting the total stock price. So as you can see here, our inventory ratios are not good. What Boeing needs to work on is improving the supply chain, getting inventory through our system, and converting everything to cash more efficiently. Next slide. Here we've got some graphs that go over the key profitability ratios with our year-over-year quarterly growth on top. We'll start off with the quarterly growth. As you can see, this chart goes back to 2006, and up until 2018, 2019, Boeing followed a pretty steady pattern. The beginning of the year starts out slow as orders and inventory is stacked up. As orders and inventories are fulfilled, end of year usually yields higher cash flows. As you can see, 2018 comes and goes, and 2019 there's no recovery. So right off the bat, that 737 MAX incident raises a huge red flag. Return on investment and return on assets follows almost an identical trend, as gone over in the cash requirements as well. Return on investments has been suffering, and in turn assets as well. Next slide.
All right, let's talk about the financial impact of the 737 MAX incident. So the bottom line is that Boeing's annual revenue for 2019 was $76.559 billion, a 24.29% decline from 2018. I mean, obviously, this has been a very huge impact on Boeing's financial, and 737 has been doing a lot of problems for Boeing in order to keep up with the market. So in addition to that, Boeing's annual operating income for 2019 was actually minus $1.975 billion. So a 116.48% decline from 2018. So this 2019 could also be a part of the impact from the COVID-19, which led to a lot of aircrafts being stalled and not used. And furthermore, we have Boeing's 2019 annual EBITDA, which was at $0.35 billion, another 97.49% decline from 2018. Boeing's annual net income for 2019 was minus $0.636 billion. So another 106% decline from 2018. So overall, we've been seeing a lot of declines with Boeing, and it has to do with the 737 MAX incident. In addition to that, we have Boeing's annual 2019 EPS at minus 1.12, a 106.27% decline from 2018. So even though there has been a lot of bottom lines, we still hope for some hopeful numbers. I mean, during the 2008 recession, it lost 45%, but it gained also 72%. So let's go to next slide, please. So the design flaws of the 737, what happened is that, well, we were getting a lot of competitive pressure from Airbus because they were about to create some very fuel efficient engines. And in order for us to keep up with that, basically we had to reinvent new aircraft, so the 737, and we had to put a fuel efficient engine to it in front of the plane. So we had to re-engine, which made it basically a cheaper way to, well, to save money on the cost instead of creating a whole new airplane. Unfortunately, when we did that, it had an increased rate of aircraft to stall. And that's one of the reason why is because of the AOA sensors that was part of the software for these aircrafts were not up to date to work perfectly and to coordinate with the pilots. So in addition to that, we did not test the AOA sensors, and there were some failures happening. It caused major malfunctions, such as the nose of the aircraft to be pushed down. Pilots could not control the airplane, which led to crashes. It resulted in 2 different fatal crashes, unfortunately. And after that, many airlines decided to ground the 737 MAX model. So we started to lose revenue, which is part of the financial impact that I was discussing before. Next slide, please.
All right. So as mentioned before, the aerospace industry is a zero-sum industry. Every loss we take is financial gain for our competitors. After the recent unfortunate events, it's critical that we retain the customers we gained from these 737 MAX 8 contracts and ensure them that our product is still top of the line. Competitors in the area like Airbus, Flyadeal, and Flydubai will begin to see our losses from unfulfilled contracts, and it's in our best interest to seek ways to keep them from capitalizing on our few mistakes. The main problem here is we're losing a couple of market share to Airbus, but Airbus is playing the safe game. They're not using the unfortunate events to their advantage and keeping the competition to straight mechanics and processing that we are deferring in. So in our interest, it's best that we continue to work with our airlines that we're with and fulfill the needs of the contract to the best of our abilities. Next slide. In addition to the growing competition, some pilots did express the concerns over the instruction manuals provided, some of them stating that they may have been inadequate in some areas. This could also due to the earlier mentioned problems of the AOA sensors and the MCAS. Pilots did complain to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and some of these pilots may lead to wanting to advise the airlines to swap to our competitors. Being able to maintain the trust of our pilots is essential to the future of our company, and the issue must be taken on with the same sincerity as all our other issues. The comfortability of our pilots behind the controls is essential to the experience that is Boeing. If pilots cannot deliver a smooth long-distance flight in the highest caliber of planes, then they're going to recommend that their airlines give them a plane that can be flown smoothly. We like to provide further training to give pilots a deeper understanding of the ins and outs of our planes to ensure that they're most comfortable with their safe controls. Next slide.
Okay, now we talk about the brand equity. So because due to the incident, Boeing have to go to do right now to convince the customer and the general public that the 737 MAX model is safe. So this is responsible of first for restoring the trust in the product after we make a mistake on the 737 MAX model. So also with the amount of the money and the time and all of the investment that went into the 737 Max, Boeing couldn't just abandon the plane altogether. So at this moment, we are in a position where we have to retooling the plane, and that is the best interest of the company at this moment. And we also have to stay the course and make sure that our product are safe and live up to the tradition of the Boeing after the incident, because that is what the customer and all of the public that looking for. And due to the pandemic, we are producing the plane. We're still producing the plane, but we at a slower pace. And because of this, we choosing the quality over the quantity, so we can focus on to gain back the image of the company. So we can draw on the legacy of the Boeing, the fact that we are an extremely important manufacturing company, an employer in the U.S. So next slide, please. So, in the history, Boeing has been a household name within the industry, and many customers come from many industry that staying loyal. Even though the incident happened, they still have a hope and trust in their company. And also, when they're looking at the overview, they believe that it's too costly for them to switch to a different product that which they don't know about. So. The 737 MAX may be grounded, but they hope to continue doing business with Boeing for the future aircraft. And because of the failure of the aircraft and all the incidents that we have mentioned before, so at this moment, Boeing do need to focus on the long-term plan with constructing a new model and testing plan. And so the problems similar to the 737 Max will not occur again. And that is a responsibility of our upper management. So we have to be consistent and lead the company throughout the development process, so while having a concern for the employees and their opinion with the aircraft technology. So next slide, please.
With that being said, we have a couple of recommendations for the following issues that were mentioned. For the first issue, we would like to, we recommend that Boeing should increase quality control. So with that, to go more into depth, is that that goes into improving the internal environment of the firm to better with quality control when testing new features and technology. So all in all, it starts with increasing quality checks, which helps making sure that technology that's being implemented into the aircraft are safe. That goes along with testing for failure of the software, that making sure that it's compatible with the technology and everything going on within the aircraft. And also just waiting for the design approval from the FAA, as that just gives us the go, making sure that all our models are safe and there's no to minimal risk in regards to letting these aircraft take flight. And another point is to just focus on the long-term development process and safety of the new aircraft. For the second issue, we recommended that we should offer discounts slash partial refunds to buyers of the aircrafts. In order to increase customer retention, we feel like that offering discounts to buyers can improve these relations with them and just get the trust for the future models. And just by offering financial compensation for the damage done by the groundings will show dedication to the customers. Now for the last issue, we felt like a rebrand is absolutely necessary. With the two incidents, along with multiple changes in higher management, it is important for us to market and change our brand to show the public and buyers that the company is going in a different direction in regards to safety and development with our future aircrafts. So that goes just that by doing just all that shows that we realize our faults and are working to improve the quality of our models. And it would just take consumers' mind off the 737 MAX. Now to close off the presentation, we just like to say, have this statement. These few shortcomings do not define the Boeing brand. We hope that together we can work back to achieving our vision of people working together as a global enterprise for aerospace industry leadership. Boeing will overcome these setbacks and losses by taking on these challenges head on. We look to establish additional funding to be poured into research and development and the creation of a new brand image team in order to open the flight path to a prosperous future of the company. Thank you.